Hello everyone, good day. My name is Leslie Filinungsod, a grade 12 student under the advisory of Mr. John Edwin Aritano, and I am going to be speaking to you today about child abuse as a social issue. Internationally, I believe many individuals would agree that child abuse is an unacceptable behavior in various cultures and communities all over the world, though I recognize there are different viewpoints on what may be considered as child abuse. Causes of child abuse. Child abuse is an intricate happening with manifold causes. I argue that most men who batter their wives are likely to abuse their children physically as well. Another reason for child abuse is unplanned pregnancies. Children born out unplanned pregnancies are neglected in most cases. Neglect is a form of abuse which accounts for more than 75% of cases involving child abuse. Children with disability are also victims of torture and abuse. Disabled kids are subject to stigma since they are secluded from their peers, and as a result, they may develop further complications in the future. Drug addiction. Drug addiction by parents is also another form of child abuse. Parents who are drug addicts resort to violent acts and thus they neglect their kids in most cases. About 60% of cases involving child abuse are among parents who are drug addicts. Alcohol addiction is another threat. Such parents abuse their kids either physically or sexually during their moments of inebriety. Child neglect. Neglect is a form of ill treatment that manifests itself through failure by a parent or a caretaker to meet a child's basic needs. This form of maltreatment is the most common type of child abuse, and it involves denying a child's access to basic needs. Different people define child neglect differently as the definition depends on the society that the child resides in. Child negligence can be intentional or unintentional. Parents who fail to care for their children when they have the ability to do so are said to have neglected their children intentionally. Studies indicate that victims of neglect are at risk of committing suicide if appropriate actions are not taken in time. Effect of child neglect. The consequences of neglect differ from one individual to another, depending on his or her ability to cope with the pain caused by such isolation. The stage of negligence is also important when analyzing the effect of child neglect. Thus, at a tender age, it may cause a child to develop aggressive behaviors as opposed to neglect at a later stage in life. Neglected children conventionally may become weak physically. Physical abuse. Physical abuse of a child is an act by an adult intended to cause harm or inflict injury to a minor. Physical abuse denotes any form of aggression or suffering caused to a child's body by an adult. Any cause of punishment that may cause injury to a kid is against the law and it is classified as a form of physical assault. Physical abuse can also cause emotional and psychological distress, and the victims are at risk of committing suicide. Child sexual abuse. Sexual abuse of a child entails forcing a minor to engage in sexual activities with an adult. A child's consent is immaterial, as a minor is considered incapable of entering a contact with an adult. Any perceived consent cannot prevent the state from punishing a criminal charge with abusing a child sexually, and these acts result in life imprisonment just to give justice and to protect children from sexual exploitation. So I chose this topic to discuss to all of you that we should stand and fight for children's rights because cases of child abuse continue to rise despite the laws that aim to protect the rights of the children, to stop child abuse and neglect from happening in the first place, sparing children and families emotional and physical trauma. And it is important to all of us as members in our community to actively take a stance against child abuse because we agree that our community's youth are our future. So can everyone take steps to make communities more supportive of families, even not all of us have children in our lives, but all of us live in communities with families and their children. So the one thing that we can all do is to contribute towards the development of strong communities to prevent child maltreatment and child abuse. To the help of Republic Act 7610, Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act, an act of providing for stronger deterrence and special protection against child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, providing penalties for its violation and for other purposes. I hope you can stand up for child abuse. Again, I am Lassie Filinungsod, student.